can do that. And Factor gear for spring, all that stuff. Get online with the Factor for the time of your life. And how about emailing us with some pithy comments? O'Reilly@foxnews.com. O'Reilly@foxnews.com. Name and
town.
Keep it
pithy.
If you wish to
opine.
All right. And that is it for us today. As always, we thank you for watching The Factor. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Hope to see you again next time. And remember, the spin stops here.
Tonight, live from Jerusalem, CBS Evening News anchor Dan Rather tells his chilling story of cheating death with a suicide bomber while risking his life in the danger zone. It's all next on Larry King Live. It's always a great pleasure to have him with us. He's with us tonight from Jerusalem. He visits the hot spots of the world. The anchor of the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather. Okay, Dan, what happened?
Well, if you're talking about the suicide bombing brush that we had about 24 hours ago, it was in Jerusalem. We were doing what reporters do. We were out and around talking to people, looking over the situation, trying to figure maybe some way we could get into Ramallah, perhaps some other area of the West Bank. We passed, Larry, what I think anybody would call sort of a routine street corner. There was a small checkpoint there. We waved the police and the soldiers moved on. As we got a little bit down the road, there was, as it turned out, behind us, a boom. And very quickly it was determined that this was a suicide bomber. We, of course, did what we had to do and eventually got back there to cover it. The only reason this is worth talking about at all, Larry, if it is not, this war is not about journalists. It's not about danger. Danger goes with the territory here. And frankly, too much can be made of this, except that it does show, it's an example of why, in the Israelis' mind, they are doing what they're doing. Now, last night, this was the 6th car bomb in 6 days. There was another today, right on the border of Israel with the West Bank. So 7 days in a row, there have been suicide bombers strike in Israel itself. And what we barely missed last night, this suicide bomber was in a car. Presumably he was looking for a major target inside Jerusalem. He got stopped at the checkpoint. The policeman approached. The car bomb went off. The bomber was killed instantly. The policeman died later at the hospital, and 2 other people were injured. So for anyone who's saying, what can be in the Israelis' minds by launching this really intense military offensive, perhaps some in Israel would prefer to call it a counteroffensive, whether you like what the Israelis are doing or not, to understand what's going on in their heads and hearts, and make no mistake, this is almost universal in Israel as a country and with the Israeli people at the moment, is this cannot continue. The trigger for it, Larry, was the Passover night Seder last Wednesday, in which 22 people were killed almost instantly by a suicide bomber. Another 3 of them died today, for a total of 25. As I say, whether one likes what the Israelis are doing or not, to understand what they're doing, they've moved into the West Bank. Goal number 1 is to try to stop the suicide bombers from coming into Israel. There are, of course, other goals.
2-part question. Does it not give you pause? And do you have a greater understanding of what people are like living day to day there?
Well, certainly it gives me pause, Larry. I'd be lying if I didn't say it gave us some pause. But, when one tries to be a foreign correspondent, tries to be a combat correspondent, you recognize that there's danger. I've said before to you, I think, and I say again, that in some ways and some days, danger is my business. These are among those days, and these are among the ways, and I accept that. And when something like last night happens, you don't just shrug and go on. You think about it, but you say to yourself, okay, is this story worth it? And I think this story certainly is worth it. These are, as the New York Times called them this morning, perilous times. Now, it certainly drives home a better understanding, as I just tried to describe, of the thinking of the Israelis. We'll deal, no doubt, later in the program with the thinking of the Palestinians, who have, their side of this story, which they, like the Israelis, claim rather regularly that none of us in the media get right. But the advantage of being here and walking the ground and covering firsthand, Larry, for an anchor, is that reporter part of your soul, which I don't think you can be an effective anchor without having that part. You just have to walk the ground. You have to be here. You have to see it. You have to experience it in order to be able to report, I think, with any depth of credibility.
Was that your own decision to go, or did the powers that be at the network ask you to go? How does that work, since you run the show in the news division?
No, it's my decision whether to go or stay, when to go or stay. Ours is a collaborative process, of course, and Andrew Hayward, who's the president of CBS News, Jim Murphy, who's the executive producer of the program, we talk all the time about what to do and how to do it. But at CBS News, going into a war zone is always a volunteer situation. Nobody is forced to go. Sometimes people are asked to go, but there's no prejudice if you say, look, I don't want to go. But I wouldn't want anybody to have any misunderstanding about it, Larry. With a story of this magnitude, nobody had to ask me to go. Clearly, once we had that Passover night suicide bombing, I knew the dynamic had changed and knew that we had to get here in greater force and I had to be here.
You already mentioned that your crew went back to the scene of the bombing. Was that your decision, theirs, what?
Again, a collective decision, but there wasn't any doubt. As soon as we knew there had been car bombing at this checkpoint, which we had just passed, we, in effect, did a quick U-turn and went back to do what reporting we could. The scene was still one of chaos and, yes, fear, anger, disgust, outrage, all of those emotions at the scene. But there's become a routine about these suicide bombings, Larry. The routine is there's the boom, there's the blast, then there's pandemonium, then the dead and wounded are attended to, there's an investigation, and very quickly the scene is cleaned up. What impressed me last night was how quickly the Israelis cleaned up this scene, and in effect they didn't say nothing has happened here. But it's part of the way they deal with this, that you deal with it as quickly as you can, and then you move on, and that includes sort of cleaning up the scene very fast and moving right on.
Journalistically, does it work? Do people killing themselves to take other lives, does that prove something?
Well, as a personal opinion, which is what you've asked, Larry, I don't think so. The disheartening thing about the Middle East, and I don't want to sound like some old salt, but we've been in and out of here over the years. This is the worst it's been between the Israelis and the Palestinians for at least several decades. The disheartening thing is that, frankly, one doesn't see where any of it leads in terms of peace. And today we talked to a number of people, some Palestinians, some Israelis, and the people caught in the middle, and after all, they represent the greatest number of people. They have their fears, they have their angers. They'd like to lead a normal life, but they know that anything approaching normalcy is a long time away right now, as the Israeli Defense Forces, tonight, by the way, Larry, the Israeli army moved into yet another West Bank town, this time Jenin. That's a northern West Bank town that the Israelis say a lot of the suicide, at least some of the suicide bombers have come out of a big refugee camp there. Nablus could be next. I wouldn't be surprised Gaza down the road. That's the reason Shimon Peres said today that this operation that the Israeli military has embarked upon is likely to last at least weeks. And you may have noted that Ariel Sharon wouldn't give that as a timetable, in effect saying it's open-ended.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll ask Dan why he thinks the world is so critical of Israel's activities and lots of other things, and your phone calls as well. Dan Rather on the scene in Jerusalem. You're watching Larry King Live. We'll be right back.
In Jerusalem tonight, right at the dividing line between the Israeli West and the mostly Arab East Jerusalem, yet another suicide bombing. We had driven by only minutes before the bomb went off.
All right, this is what happened tonight at this intersection. A car bomber was trying to get through to a target, stopped at a checkpoint. The bomb went off. He didn't get through because he was stopped at the checkpoint. Bad, but could have been a lot worse.
Hi-ho, it's off to work we go. We keep on singing all day long. Hi-ho, 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 gonna make it your troubles go.
Want happy employees? Help secure their financial futures. At the Principal Financial Group, that's what we do. The Principal is the 401k leader. Financial solutions for you and growing businesses.
Who's our 401k with?
The Principal Financial Group. We understand what you're working for.
You know who that is? What about the man? That's Walt Disney, the guy who came up with Mickey Mouse. He dreamed up this whole place. He could take an ordinary day, turn it into magic. He was full of fun ideas.
Oh, kind of like you, Grandpa.
Come share the magic at our year-long celebration of Walt Disney's 100th birthday.
We share a dream come true.
Call 1-407-WDisney.
They generate billions in revenues. Among thousands of companies, they are the elite. They are the Fortune 500. Who are these industry leaders who have reached the pinnacle of American business? Find out in a special CNN series sponsored by Kinko's. And pick up this issue of Fortune magazine at newsstands this week. The Fortune 500, a special series this week on CNN. Brought to you by the Kinko's Network. On-site, off-site, and everything in between. Tap into the network.
I think you found something.
From TNT, watch Brendan Fraser in The Mummy.
There's something out there. Something underneath that sand.
I think this may be the Book of the Dead.
You have unleashed the creature that we have feared for more than 3,000 years.
TNT unleashes The Mummy. Sunday, April 14th at 8 on TNT. We know drama.
More shocking accusations of abuse by a priest, this time by a former professional baseball player who says he was abused for years. The Search for Answers on Newsnight with Aaron Brown, 10 Eastern on CNN tomorrow.
As America plays on, heroes make us proud and make us cheer. Get the latest sports with Larry Smith and Ray DeLesio at 12 and 42 past the hour. CNN Headline News. Real news 24/7.
Joining us live from Israel is Dan Rather. Ariel Sharon, the Prime Minister of Israel, said today that Arafat can leave his headquarters on the condition that it's a one-way ticket. Others are now saying this is the first Israeli-Palestinian war, actual war between those two bodies. And three, the world is all lumped in one, Dan, is criticizing, most of the world, Israel for this continued action. Want to summarize all those three?
Well, I'll take a shot at it later, but first of all, let me explain that while we've been on the air, the rains came today. It's been a hard rain here, and we had a sort of tent covering it collapsed, and that's the reason this water got on the bush jacket. I'll change it during the next break. Now,
it's okay. I like the look. I like the look.
Yes,
I like the look.
Well, Ariel Sharon, is one of the few chances we've had today to smile, I must say, with this cheap, under-budget tenting gave way on us. But Ariel Sharon today did say, in effect, he offered Arafat exile. He said, you can leave, but you can't come back. Now, he said that when Arafat was apparently considering going to the Arab summit last week. Maybe you want to call it an alleged Arab summit because Mubarak wasn't there, Saddam Hussein wasn't there, Gaddafi wasn't there. But anyway, this was something different today. Because, among other things, Sharon has been under some pressure from various European countries to allow their diplomats in to see Yasser Arafat. So what Sharon did was he sort of did a, if you will, a diplomatic shotgun blast out and said, well, okay, if you want to come see Yasser Arafat, be my guest, but if you're going to see him, you're going to take him out with you, and when you take him out with you, he isn't coming back. Now, beyond that, he said to Arafat, if you want to leave, go, but you aren't coming back. But, Larry, this is a non-starter. It simply, no pun intended here, is not going to fly. Among the many reasons, Arafat believes that he is winning the battle for world opinion and believes that the Sharon move of confining him, Arafat, in his compound over in Ramallah has backfired on Sharon. Now, others may want to argue whether Yasser Arafat's assessment is correct or not, but there's little doubt in my mind that Arafat believes that he's in the best position, and indeed that he has leverage, if not indeed the whip hand on Ariel Sharon at the moment in terms of world opinion. Now, so that's not just not going to happen. In terms of world opinion turning against the Israelis, that's an awfully hard thing to judge. But as best I can judge, I think that characterization is correct. That you had these images. What images have been on television? Most of the images have been Israeli tanks crunching through poor areas and other areas in the West Bank, Israeli soldiers firing at various targets. You've had those kind of images. And the Palestinians, to the anger, of course, of the Israelis, have been cast as the victims, if you will, the underdogs. And there's always a strong emotional pull and undertow, if you will, in that direction. And also, people talk about the Israelis being good at public relations, publicity, and spin, if you will, and indeed in many ways they are. But the Palestinians are good at it as well, and Yasser Arafat in his own wily way is a master of it. So, yes, I think for the moment that world opinion, if one could take a worldwide poll, would not be in Israel's favor. Now, what Israel's trying to do, Larry, and I know that you must have picked up on this, particularly in the last few days, they've accelerated the effort to tie what they are doing directly to the American anti-terrorism effort, saying, look, it's all part of the same war against terrorism. But the critical thing for the Israelis, world opinion as a whole and at large is not nearly as key for them, and they know it, as opinion with the American public. If they, frankly, I think, figure if they can hold American public opinion behind them, they'll be all right. And if they can't, then they're in for very big trouble indeed.
And how about, Dan, the increased criticism of the Bush administration, both in the United States and out, for not doing enough and not doing more?
Well, this has increased considerably in recent days, and today's lead editorial in the New York Times being perhaps example A. The drumbeat is getting louder for President Bush to do something. Of course, the problem for President Bush and those around him is what? Like, what should we do? The general assessment that the administration has in some ways tried to have it in several different directions is probably correct. On the one hand, the United States and the UN votes with an overwhelming majority for Israel to withdraw from the West Bank. On the other hand, President Bush says Yasser Arafat needs to do more to control the suicide bombers. I don't think there's quite as much contradiction in that as some people view, but that's each person has to make up their own mind about that. Where I'm going with this is if there's a U.S. plan about what to do in the wake of this current war developing, it's unclear to me. I'm not sure that such a plan exists. It is true that world opinion has coalesced behind the idea that there's one and only one country that can make a difference here and perhaps get a ceasefire of some sort and move this from war and violence back to the political and diplomatic arena, and that is the United States. Now, whether President Bush and his team are up to that and how soon they will decide on a course and make it public, I have no idea. But Secretary Powell was pretty clear this morning, I thought, in saying, look, this may run on for a while. We hope it doesn't. We don't think that it's going to have the desired effect on the part of Israel, that is to stop the suicide bombing. If I read Secretary Powell correctly, I think he believes it's going to be weeks, if not longer, before this situation begins to even reach a point where the United States can step back in and say, look, what about this idea or that? But I'll say straight to you, Larry, I have no idea what the United States could propose that might be effective. Make no mistake, Ariel Sharon is absolutely adamant. He's determined that he's going to do what he can to stop the suicide bombing. But the suicide bombing is a new weapon and a very effective weapon by the Palestinians, to which no defense has yet been devised. Sharon has done the best he can with this offensive. But who among us believes that however long this offensive goes, that it's actually going to be able to stop the suicide bombing? We can hope, but I have my doubts.
More with Dan Rather. We'll also be including your phone calls in a little while on this edition of Larry King Live. Stay there.
The bomber was killed instantly. The policeman who approached the car died late tonight. It's become a macabre ritual here. The bombs go off, Pandemonium, followed by investigation. The crowd disperses, and within hours, all evidence of the bombing will be wiped away.
Say goodbye to machines taking up valuable office space and tap into the Kinko's network.
You must listen to me. You must be. You must be.
Oh, it's gin joints.
I don't want any trouble.
No cuts, no commercials, no competition. Only the greatest movies of all time, all the time. Turner Classic Movies.
Tomorrow, America's Most Wanted's John Walsh takes you inside the criminal investigations gripping the nation. 9 Eastern on CNN tomorrow night.
This will revolutionize your time, because now the best time to use your wireless plan is anytime. This is new Quest Wireless Anytime Minutes. No limits when you can call. Just an amazing 1,000 monthly minutes you can use anytime, any day. Plus these great features, all for only $39.99 a month. Call now and ask how you can save 10% off your wireless calling plan. This is the new way to save anytime. That is, anytime your hands are free. This is riding the light. Quest.
Decorating isn't about spending a lot of money. It's about taste and knowing where to shop.
At the grand opening of Bassett Furniture Direct, you'll find everything on sale, including the entire Chris Madden collection, designed exclusively for Bassett. Save $720 on the queen-size canopy bed, just $17.99. Shop sale prices with no payments or interest charges for 1 year at the grand opening of Bassett Furniture Direct off Shoals Ferry across from Washington Square in Beaverton.
Let yourself go.
This is CNN.
We're back with one of the best journalists ever, Dan Rather of CBS News. He's on the scene in Jerusalem. What's being made there of Israel taking control of Bethlehem?
Well, the fight in Bethlehem goes on as best I can figure out, Larry. I haven't been in there tonight. In fact, nobody could get in there during the day. That the Israelis will prevail in Bethlehem, but it's been one of the toughest, bloodiest fights of the last few days. Palestinian gunmen took refuge in the Church of the Nativity. As you know, it's a special sacred place for Christians in that the birth of Jesus by tradition and legend took place there. But what happened in Bethlehem is an offshoot of what happened in Ramallah, and this is going to be happening through the West Bank for some time to come, Larry. No doubt about it. It was some scene there today, as evidenced again by what's on my jacket here, that it rained pretty hard today, and in the rain and fog of this morning, this battle over Bethlehem developed, and as we speak, this new battle in Jenin is going on. Larry, there's one thing we didn't mention, if you'll forgive me for coming back to it, and that is that Ariel Sharon today, at or about the same time, he offered this deal to Yasser Arafat, leave and don't come back and go into exile. I didn't think it got quite the play it deserved anywhere in the news today, but Sharon, he talked very tough about Iran, Syria, Iraq, Hezbollah and others over in Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley, and their role in supplying weapons to the Palestinians. He made a direct link with them, and this is about the toughest talk I've heard from Sharon on this subject. Now, part of it is an attempt to link what's happening here with what happened on September 11th. But the other part of it I thought was pretty clear warning, and you may have noted that some shells were fired into Israel from Lebanon by Hezbollah, quote, in support of the Palestinians. And Sharon and the Israeli military responded almost immediately by attacking positions in Lebanon. Now, while we've said this operation may go on for some weeks and that there's a limit been placed on it in terms of distance of saying, well, we're only going to go a certain distance out, you put that together what Sharon said today, and I'm not sure that the distance limitation will hold. That may depend on how things go, but I wanted to call that to the attention because it was one of those things that in the chaos and so much news today sort of got pushed to the back page.
The State Department has told Americans that it is a deteriorating security situation and has asked them to get out. Have you seen Americans leaving?
There have been some Americans leaving. They're not in great droves, and I think there will be some more tomorrow. This new admonition, new warning from the government just came today. But the State Department's assessment, if it needs to be said, is absolutely accurate. The situation continues to deteriorate, and there's no prospect of anything getting better, certainly in the immediate future. So that warning should not be a surprise. It also was aimed, I think, in strong part, Larry, at those American citizens who are still in the Palestinian territory in the West Bank. That situation is obviously deteriorating extremely quickly.
You've been in many war zones. Is there a feeling in Jerusalem, the principal city in that country, that they're at war?
Absolutely. They've had that very firm feeling, and by the way, Larry, it cuts across all political strata in this country. As soon as word came about the Passover night bombing of the Seder, the suicide bombing of the Seder, killed 22 on the spot, another 3 have died for a total of 25. As soon as word of that came through, I think every man, woman, and child of memory age in Israel knew that it was, for them, war. I've been here many times over the years. That make me an expert on Israel or the Middle East, but I have never seen the situation quite as it is right now. And here's why. I come back to the suicide bombings. The Israelis know what an effective weapon this is. They know firsthand, having had 7 days in a row of it, how hard it's going to be to stop it. The Economist quoted somebody on the Palestinians saying with satisfaction that the suicide bombings are the nails in the Israelis' shoes. And I thought that was an apt quote because that is pretty much the view in the region, whether you're Israeli or Palestinian or something else, and that is that Yasser Arafat has a new and effective weapon. The Israelis don't know how to stop it. They're deeply concerned about it, in addition to being outraged and angry about it. And when you say, well, what does Ariel Sharon, what does that have to do with Ariel Sharon putting the Israeli military on the West Bank? Job one, the first goal there, is to, insofar as possible, stop the suicide bombers from coming into Israel. There are other goals, including to isolate the Palestinian people, to humiliate them, and possibly to try to force them to drastically reduce, if not stop, these suicide bombings. But the sense of the country, and certainly the sense of Jerusalem, of the city, is that this is one of the most perilous times in the history of Israel as a nation since it was reformed in 1948.
And you sense that everywhere?
Absolutely everywhere. Jerusalem is a ghost town. It's night, of course, you can't see it now, Larry, but it's eerie to walk around this city. People are staying in their homes. There was street after street today in which there was nobody on the street, and I mean zero. Wow. Nobody on the street, and it's been that way for a number of days.
We'll take a break, come back. We'll include phone calls. He's our guest for the full hour. He's Dan Rather of CBS News on the scene in Jerusalem. John Walsh of America's Most Wanted will be with us tomorrow night and Thursday night in his first media appearance since all the ruckus over leaving PBS. Louis Ruckhiser will join us. We'll be right back.
Even a year ago, this Israeli suburb was the last place you'd need an armored car or expect to see tanks in the streets.
This is southern Jerusalem, a quiet neighborhood. And while the only thing beating down on me right now is the rain, bullets frequently rain in this area, which is the reason those Israeli tanks are right back there.
On the WB Wednesday, 6 all-new episodes of Dawson's Creek begin.
I think I'm going to break up with Dawson.
Are you challenging me?
Plus the 100th episode, Dawson's Creek. Then, after 4 years...
I was wondering if
you would come to Arizona with me.
Their lives will take different turns. An all-new Felicity after an all-new Dawson's Creek on the WB Wednesday night.
We want to be challenging. We want to be risk takers. Not risk takers with the journalism, but risk taking in how we present it. Give me a really different and interesting way to tell the story. Who's the character of the story? Who connects the story to the viewer's life? It's not enough to have a great story. We can all come up with great stories. We have to be great storytellers.
We get it first. We get it right. And more often, we're the only ones who get it. Every day, every night, everywhere, you can depend on CNN to see what happens next.
Keep your allies close.
Tell Bobby Boys time is running up.
But keep your enemies closer.
You don't change Chinatown, boy. It changes you.
And to bring down the underground, his battle has just begun.
You better watch your back, because my gut still tells me somebody in the 15th gave my guy up.
What were you doing? The first time on television. Chow Yun-fat, Mark Wahlberg, The Corruptor. Tomorrow, 9 Eastern, only on TBS Superstation.
Tomorrow night, the NBA is on TNT. The Lakers have it. The Nets want it. See a clash of superstars when Shaq and the defending champs tangle with Kidd and the upstart Nets. Lakers Nets at 8. The drama of the NBA is on TNT.
Tomorrow on the all-new Crossfire, it's the left versus the right live. Should Bush be blamed for the Mideast meltdown? 2 congressmen battle it out. Join the debate in the Crossfire, 7 Eastern on CNN tomorrow night.
We're back with Dan Rather of CBS News on the scene in Jerusalem. Let's take a call or two for Dan. Dearborn, Michigan. Speak up. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Rather. How are you tonight? I'm just calling to ask you...
Just fine. Thank you very much.
The question is, as much as we know about you, how could you morally agree as a decent journalist to comparing the September 11 events to what is going on in the occupied territories, considering that no foreign army is occupying your house or your offices at CBS in New York?
Well, I think, with all respect, that you didn't understand what I said. That is not my opinion. I said this was Ariel Sharon's opinion and was the prevailing widespread consensus in Israel itself, making that comparison. I didn't make that comparison myself. Not my job as a journalist to do that. I was reporting, and accurately so, what Ariel Sharon and almost every other Israeli thinks. Not
Dan,
what Dan Rather thinks.
Dan, as someone who has covered this for so long, do you often get the feeling when you listen to both sides speak, it's kind of weird to say this, they both sound right?
Get that feeling all the time, Larry. And the reason I have that feeling is in some important ways, they both are right. On the other hand, in some important ways, they both are wrong. But, you know, there's no story in the world more difficult to cover than this one, Larry. No one wants or should want to hear about journalist problems, but that for a journalist, this situation is immensely complicated. And when you do your best to be an honest broker of information, which is what I'm trying to do here, particularly in this region with all the emotion and hatred, you always run the risk that someone will misinterpret what you've said. As the gentleman who just called, obviously, and I said with all respect to him, he didn't understand that I was reporting what the Israeli viewpoint was, not what my own viewpoint is. But, you know, it goes with the territory. Oscar Wilde, the English writer, once said, "The truth is rarely pure and never simple." And I think of that often here in the Middle East, and particularly these last few days. Larry, I do want to point out to you, if I may, that I'm hearing from some of our people, and I believe this is correct, it's been confirmed, that Israeli tanks are on the move in another West Bank city tonight, expanding this military operation. Earlier they moved into Jenin, which is in the northern West Bank, and now I'm told they moved into Salfit. And all of this part of the pattern and indeed part of the plan that's going to keep this going for several weeks. But at least 2 more West Bank cities have Israeli tanks in them and have had them in them since you and I have been on the air.
Wow. Oaklawn, Illinois, hello.
Hello. Yes, I wanted to ask, is it fair for Israeli tanks to enter refugee camps of people that have already lost their homes due to Israeli settlement building? Is that really a fair thing to do to people to have already lost their homes?
And that, I might add, I guess, is the growing sentiment that we've discussed in the world, that maybe Israel is losing the public relations war here by that lady's very question, Dan.
Yes, and I do appreciate the lady calling in, and thank you, ma'am, for calling in. But the question is not mine to answer. It is for you yourself to answer. Do you think it's fair? I would gather by the tone in the question that you don't. But that's something each person has to make their mind. But if, and I recognize there's some risk in saying that, if one is going to say that this is unfair, outrageous, then a companion to that is, what do you say to those Israelis who say, you know, it may be unfair, but sending children and others as suicide bombers to attack innocent civilians within Israel is, quote, also unfair. This is the journalist's dilemma that, and Larry, you said you sometimes get the feeling that each side, their arguments have validity. If you're a Palestinian, or perhaps even if you aren't, you certainly can understand the loss of dignity, pride, to say nothing of personal property destruction, sometimes death and wounding, that results from a military operation such as the one Israel now has underway. If you're an Israeli, or perhaps even if you aren't, you can certainly understand how the Israelis would say, you know, we hate doing this. We don't like doing it at all. But we simply can't sit here and let one suicide bomber after another come in and destroy us, our children. And Larry, there's a growing sense in Israel and out that one of the things we in the press have not done often enough, the Palestinians have a list, and some of it's valid on their part, is that in some cases they're beginning to be substantial pieces of evidence that the Iraqis and some others are paying large sums of money to the families of suicide bombers and doing things such as offering them trips to Mecca. This, if finally and completely confirmed, would put the lie to the idea that these suicide bombings are simply spontaneous. So it goes. People are going to have strong feelings on all sides of this for as far ahead as I can see.
What do you make, Dan, of the phenomena of female suicide bombers? In the past, we've had something like it, but never young girls.
I don't know what to make of it, Larry. This is, I go inarticulate because, first of all, I didn't think it would happen. This is something new, and we've had, at least 2 incidents of this fairly recently. You know, previously young men and boys, but not girls and women. What this indicates to us is that this evil of suicide bombing is not in a period of diminishment. It is indeed catching on as the favorite weapon of choice, born, yes, of desperation that the Palestinians feel. It goes back to the conclusion, a tentative one, Larry, indeed it is, but how do you stop this? That, let's say this Israeli military operation goes on for weeks or months. In the end, is it going to stop suicide bombers? Not as an opinion, you'd have to say, by any reasonable analysis, probably not. But what the Israelis say is 2 things. One, well, it may not stop it, but we think we can significantly reduce it. And the other is, quote, we have to do something in the face of these suicide bombers. In the Palestine territories, Larry, there's a sense of both defiance and steadfastness that is tied to the suicide bombings, that even previously described as moderate Palestinians are not apologetic about it. And in fact, they're saying, look, we are a desperate people, and desperate people do desperate things, and we have hit upon this as a way of making the Israelis pay for all of the, quote, outrages and terrible things, unquote, that they have done to us.
Dan Rather's our guest. Back with more right after this. Don't go away.
This stretch of road heading south out of Jerusalem through what were the comfortable suburbs has become one of the most dangerous in the area. Snipers from the hills above firing on the traffic below. Checkpoints change into roadblocks without warning. But you know this is shut down here. Okay, thank you very much. We'll go back. Leaving no alternative but to turn around and go back from where you came.
More shocking accusations of abuse by a priest, this time by a former professional baseball player who says he was abused for years. The search for answers on Newsnight with Aaron Brown, 10 Eastern on CNN tomorrow.
Now for teachers and students, CNN Student News. CNN Student News is on air, featuring news, current events, and in-depth specials. CNN Student News is online, using the power of the internet to enhance the learning experience. CNN Student News is hands-on, providing free teaching materials that spark interest and awareness in students. CNN Student News, on air, online, and hands-on. Teachers enroll today.
While you're watching them, ever wanted to know what she's looking at? And what's happening back here? And where does this map come from? Well, quit wondering and come visit the world's news leader, CNN. We'll take you beyond the headlines and behind the scenes to show you what it takes to bring the world to your television every single day. You've never seen anything quite like this before. And when you're done, stop by the Turner store for a souvenir or a special video starring you. So what are you waiting for? Step inside the CNN Studio Tour, where you're in the news.
As America plays on, heroes make us proud and make us cheer. Get the latest sports with Larry Smith and Ray DeLesio at 12 and 42 past the hour. CNN Headline News. Real news 24/7.
Tomorrow on the all-new Crossfire, it's the left versus the right live. Should Bush be blamed for the Mideast meltdown? Two congressmen battle it out. Join the debate in the Crossfire, 7 Eastern on CNN tomorrow night.
This is Talk Back Live. I'm Marthel Neville. It's all about what's on your mind. The news of the day, issues that concern you, controversy, information, a little attitude, right here on Talk Back Live.
Weekdays, go inside politics with Judy Woodruff. It's the big stories, the inside buzz, and unique perspectives from Washington and around our nation. Inside Politics with Judy Woodruff, 4 Eastern, CNN weekdays.
We're back with Dan Rather. We'll be back taking your phone calls. What does Israel mean by calling this operation Protective Wall?
Well, in the same way that the U.S. military has names for operations such as Operation Desert Storm, Anaconda, the Israeli military has their version of that. And they do call this the Operation Protective Wall. There have been some Israelis and others who said, well, the problem with that image is that it raises the French Maginot Line, which the French built for somewhat the same reason, to isolate the Germans and keep them out. But it turned out to be something that didn't work. And of course, there's an ache with the Israelis, which goes along the lines, listen, we do this in their view. They do it because they have to do it, but to try to build such a wall, they're just not certain how to do it, and certainly not certain this present operation will work, although Ariel Sharon, in effect, keeps telling his people, we had to do something, and I'm confident if we stick with this, that it will at least be a deterrent. If it isn't an absolute barrier, it can at least be an obstacle to these suicide bombers.
Toronto, Canada, for Dan Rather. Hello.
Setting up.
Toronto, go ahead.
Will you be interviewing Mr. Sharon or Mr. Arafat, and do you think Mr. Arafat expects to have a state in place of Israel or alongside Israel?
Oh, there's two questions there. Certainly, I'm available to interview Prime Minister Sharon or Yasser Arafat at any time, and if they happen to be listening to viewing, call me collect. I'll be there in a second. I don't mean to make a joke about it. I think it's unlikely, particularly with Arafat, actually, the Israelis are trying very hard to keep Arafat from being on television in any, way, shape, or form. Now, as to the second part of it, I confess to you that I've forgotten the second part of the question for the moment, which was what, please, madam, if you remind me.
I have forgotten because she's gone now. I'm trying to remember what she said. I'll think of it in a minute.
Well, forgive
Let
me,
me
Larry.
ask you.
Oh, no, I know what it is. Say again, please.
Do the Palestinians want to stay alongside?
A very important
the state.
question, Larry. Thank you very much, and I apologize to you. Yes. Is it? Yes. Well, that's hard to say, but there is a building school of thought, and not just among the Israelis, that when Yasser Arafat turned down the best deal by far he'd ever been offered at the very end of the President Clinton's presidency, when Ehud Barak, who's now out of power, put in front of him about 95% of what Arafat had said he wanted. And when Arafat refused that, then there's a building coming out of that, and particularly now, there's a building school of thought that says Arafat doesn't just want a Palestinian state. He doesn't want one beside an Israeli state, that he's in fact going for the whole thing, which is another way of saying that instead of Arafat's goal being just to go back to roughly what was before the 1967 war, which Israel won, that what Arafat may have in mind is going back to 1948. That, of course, the Israelis cannot do. Another way of putting it, Larry, is that there are pressures on Yasser Arafat from, yes, the mullahs in Iran, from Iraq, elements in Syria, all over the Arab world, saying, you've got the Israelis on the run. And instead of settling for just a state, a small Palestinian state beside the Israeli state, let's push it now and let's crush it. I will say that the Israelis fear that that's Arafat's position. I do want to emphasize that Chairman Arafat has not laid that out as his position, but his actions have led any number of observers to believe that that is in fact what he has in mind.
What do you think has been the long-term effect, will be the long-term effect on this, on the children of the Israelis and the Palestinians? We understand that Israeli TV Children's Channel is now discussing and talking to the young kids about suicide bombers. What can you guess they're going to grow up with here?
I don't think we have to guess, Larry, that the effect of war on children who are caught in the crossfires is devastating. And it's the most disheartening part of covering this war on both sides, Palestinian and Israelis. The children have been suffering, they are suffering, and they're going to continue to suffer in varying degrees, depending where they are, for a very long time. On the Palestinian side, we know what it looks like, what life is like inside the Palestinian refugee camps, and we know what it's been like for a long time, and we know what the effect of that is on children. And we know that in Israel, that children who live in communities who've been under constant sniper fire, and if you can imagine what it's like to be in your apartment and be under constant sniper fire and danger of that these children do poorly in their schoolwork, they have all kinds of psychological problems. Look, when you and I talked when I was in Afghanistan, Larry, I said that, war is hell on everybody. But no matter where the war is and who's fighting it, it's a particular kind of hell. It's the toughest hell on women and children. So it was in Afghanistan, and so it is here in this situation.
We'll take a break and come back with our remaining moments with Dan Rather, ever present on the scene in Jerusalem. Don't go away.
Youssef Diliani and his wife Antoinette live in a Palestinian suburb of Jerusalem. For them, the issue is fear, but also dignity and freedom of movement.
I cannot visit my family. I have a sister, nephews in Ramallah. Since 6 months, I didn't reach Ramallah. I cannot. It's forbidden.
So while the old leaders with power and the young men with guns and bombs created this war, it is the people on both sides who must find a way to live with it.
Opium, Afghanistan's cash crop. I'm Paula Zahn. On the next American Morning, the U.S. may be winning the war in Afghanistan, but losing the war against heroin trafficking. That's tomorrow at 7 a.m. Eastern.
A respected newsman with a different way of looking at the story. Join Aaron Brown for Newsnight every weeknight at 10 Eastern. You can depend on CNN.
Wherever terror raises its ugly head,
there so shall we be. We are a great people, and we do great things, and the world is a safer place because America... I am non-apologetically a conservative. We have the top newsmakers of the day, the people involved in the stories, different angles. We seek out opposing viewpoints, and then we let the audience decide. Stand up for freedom.
Sean Hannity's now on the radio, noon to 3 weekdays on News Talk 860 KPEM.
Attention, the IRS has issued a warning that all assets and Social Security benefits can be levied. If you have any unresolved back-owed taxes, the IRS can now seize your bank account, home, car, and even cut your Social Security. The law offices of Ronnie Deutsch will fight the IRS and settle back-owed taxes, levies, liens, payroll taxes, and penalties for just pennies on the dollar and get your Social Security restored. Call the law offices of Ronnie Deutsch at 1-800-651-1881 for a free and confidential tax analysis. Call 1-800-651-1881.
Hi Portland, I'm Rick with Empire Glass. Let Empire Glass replace your cracked windshield and we'll still pay up to $100 of your comprehensive insurance deductible. And we'll now give you 24 free dinners to Sherry's, the #1 family restaurant and pie bakery in Oregon and Washington. And we'll even give you a certificate for a free 14-karat diamond pendant necklace with any windshield replacement. So for the highest in quality windshields, call Empire Glass today at 503-251-9881. When you think glass, think Empire.
If you suffer from any of these health problems, a Craftmatic adjustable bed with built-in massage and soothing heat may provide the temporary relief from pain you've been looking for. Call now and we'll mail you this special free $200 off rebate certificate. It's good for $200 off the Craftmatic Model 1 bed of your choice. Don't suffer needlessly. Get the facts about the affordable adjustable beds that may provide temporary relief.
Call toll-free 1-800-922-6900.
This is CNN. This is CNN.
Dan, we know historically there are always voices of dissent in Israel. Is anyone speaking out in Israel? Are there any groups opposed to their country's actions?
Very small number of people, as best I can make out, Larry. And of course, in a democracy, which Israel is, people speak out and there's always dissent. But in the time I've been covering Israel over the last 35 to 40 years, frankly, I have rarely, if ever, seen Israeli public opinion as a whole so united behind a sense of, listen, we need to do something, we have to do something, and we have to do it now, as is the case at this moment. Now, having said that, among the voices of dissent, I think the ones that worry Ariel Sharon, the government, and the people of Israel most are those people who are refusing to go into the army, saying, look, I just, as a matter of conscience, can't be a part of this kind of military operation. They are few in number. They have grown some over recent days. I would say that's the most significant part of it, but no one should mistake here. Israel has a consensus on this, and it is the will of the Israeli people to do something about the suicide bombing. They'll argue about whether Sharon has the right strategy and the right tactics. But on the goal, about the goal, there is absolutely, well, I'd say very, very little dissent about that.
One more call. Toronto for Dan Rather. Hello.
Hi, Dan. Dan, you're in Jerusalem right now, and we've heard from the Israeli public opinion. Will you also be going to the Palestinian refugee camps and reporting on their public opinion and their perspective as well?
Absolutely, and we've done that anyway. Let me say that we've been trying to get in there. I have been there before, but on this trip, keep in mind, the Israeli army has what amounts to a shutdown, like a prison lockdown. And right now, we can't get in there, and if we did get in there, we would be thrown out immediately. But we're doing the best we can to present the Palestinian side, the Palestinian arguments, side by side with the Israelis. As I said earlier, it's one of the toughest jobs that I or any other journalist can face today, and that is trying to separate the wheat from the chaff. Both sides are dealing in propaganda, but we make every effort to give both sides as honestly as we can. And let me just say to you, as sincerely as I know how, my role in my professional life is to try to be the best honest broker of information that I can possibly be. I can't be that every way, every day, in every detail of the story, but I'm here trying my best to do exactly that.
Dan, do you see an out game? Is there any light at this tunnel?
Larry, as you know me a long time. I'm an optimist by experience and by nature, but for the life of me, I can't see anything to be very optimistic about here at the moment. For those who thought they saw some light at the end of the tunnel, maybe as recently as a few weeks or months ago, right now the light is out. The tunnel is dark. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. It may be that down the line, italicize the word may, it may be down the line that after Israel has run its course with this military strategy, gone town by town, camp by camp, even house by house, looking for the roots of suicide bombing, that somebody, and that somebody probably is going to be the United States, may step in and say, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to put up a barrier of some kind. There's going to be a line. Palestinians on one side to have their state, Israelis on the other side. We're going to guarantee that line. And they'll wind up being Israel remains a state, Palestine finally has its own state. Maybe far, far out in the distance, that's a possibility. But I have to say, on this rainy night, Larry, it seems a long, long way away.
We have a minute and a half left. How long are you going to stay?
Well, I don't know, Larry. As long as I think I can add value for our coverage here, I'll be here. I'm committed to both the idea and the ideal that you can't be a credible anchor person and stay constantly in a windowless room on the west side of Manhattan or in midtown Manhattan. You have to get out and see it. That I think that CBS News, by making the commitment to do our broadcast from here, probably at least all of this week, is in the right place at the right time, on the right story. I just hope and pray every day that we can be accurate and fair on a story which is very difficult to do it. I think I'm here for at least the rest of this week. We just have to see how the news goes.
Dan, I can do nothing but salute you. It's always great having you on. You're a terrific journalist, and you're right on top of the scene, and stay well.
Larry, thank you very much, and I appreciate being on tonight. I'll see you along the trail.
You bet. He's on that trail all the time, isn't he? Dan Rather of CBS News reporting on a rainy late night, early morning in Jerusalem as this incredible saga goes on. Sometimes seems insoluble and very frustrating to those of us who have to ask questions on both sides of the ledger. We'll come back and tell you about tomorrow after this.
With no common ground in sight, the outlook is the violence will escalate and the funerals on both sides will increase, and that among the dead on both sides will be many civilians.
It's tough to see things clearly these days. The situation in the world, our economy, your investments. But investing is the job at Janus, and Janus is working to spot opportunities, using the approach that's worked long-term, applying lessons from the recent past, investing in companies that show signs they can perform in this economy and into the next. Get there. Janus.
No competition. Only the greatest movies of all time, all the time. Turner Classic Movies.
Now for teachers and students, CNN Student News. CNN Student News is on air, featuring news, current events, and in-depth specials. CNN Student News is online, using the power of the internet to enhance the learning experience. CNN Student News is hands-on, providing free teaching materials that spark interest and awareness in students. CNN Student News, on air, online, and hands-on. Teachers, enroll today.
Tomorrow on the all-new Crossfire, it's the left versus the right live. Should Bush be blamed for the Mideast meltdown? Two congressmen battle it out. Join the debate in the Crossfire, 7 Eastern on CNN tomorrow night.
As America plays on, heroes make us proud and make us cheer. Get the latest sports with Larry Smith and Ray DeLessio at 12 and 42 past the hour. CNN Headline News. Real news 24/7.
If you ever wanted to do something bold about AIDS, AOL Time Warner is proud to present the first European AIDS vaccine ride. 7 days of kindness on a bicycle from Amsterdam to Paris this 4th of July. And the Canada-US AIDS vaccine ride. 5 days from Montreal to Portland, Maine. 800-825-1000. Everything's provided. Hot meals, showers, sleeping tents, even training to get you in shape. 800-825-1000. Make AIDS history. Register today. 800-825-1000 or bethepeople.com.
Closed captioning for selected programs provided by Snore Stop Extinguisher, the snoring specialist.
Snore Stop, proven effective to stop or reduce
What happened tonight?
And don't go to bed just yet. There's a new study on sleep.